Have you ever wondered what it takes to make the President of the United States issue 4 Truth Social posts in 41 minutes responding to a pizza joke? Tonight, you'll find out. By 2:17 a.m., the 4th post was live. Failed comedian, nobody watches, should be canceled immediately. And the Late Show's social team had placed all 4 posts in chronological order beneath the clip that had caused them with a single caption, "The joke is still funnier." By morning, the comparison, Colbert's comparison, 4 words, delivered in the specific register of a man who has identified the exact frame that makes a month of escalating deadlines visible in an instant, had been picked up by 17 news outlets, translated into 9 languages, and was being cited in an actual academic paper on political communication and metaphor by a Georgetown linguistics professor who had been awake since 3 a.m. All of it, from the pizza joke to the Georgetown professor, had started with Colbert standing at his desk, holding a printed timeline of Trump's Iran deadline extensions, and saying, "He's like Domino's, 30 minutes or free, except it's been 30 days and the pizza is a civilization." The segment had begun 22 minutes earlier with a different register entirely. Start at the evidence, at the geometry of the evening before the comedy arrived to describe it. Studio 601, 10:52 p.m. The desk had 3 items on it: a printed timeline, a second document in a folder, and a third item covered by a cloth that Colbert had not touched since placing it there at the segment's opening. The timeline was the first document. The full record of Trump's Iran deadline sequence, compiled from public statements, sourced and dated, displayed in the 2-column format the show had developed over 7 weeks of covering the conflict. Left column, the deadline. Right column, what happened when it arrived, March 22nd. Open the Strait in 48 hours or face obliteration. What happened? The deadline passed. Extension issued. April 4th. Power plant day and bridge day. Hell will be paid. What happened? The deadline passed. Ceasefire negotiations referenced. April 5th. The entire country can be taken out in one night. That night might be tomorrow night. What happened? Tomorrow night passed without the night. April 7th, 8 p.m. A civilization will tonight to be brought back again. What happened? At 6:47 p.m., a 2-week ceasefire. The civilization was brought back again without first being taken. Colbert read the 4 right column entries in sequence. He placed the timeline on the desk. "That was a performance," he said, looking at the document and then at the camera. And it was convincing. One beat, but performances end, and this conversation is just starting. He reached under the desk. The second document was a cost analysis, the documented financial cost of the military posture maintained between each deadline and its extension, the naval deployment, the air sortie rates, the munitions expenditure, the operational tempo. Colbert read 3 figures. He placed the document on the desk beside the timeline. He looked at the camera. "The geometry of these 4 deadlines," he said, "is not political, it's mathematical." He placed his finger on the first deadline date. "Each one costs the same whether it's enforced or extended." He moved his finger to the 4th. 4 deadlines, 4 extensions. The math is the math. A man in the 3rd row looked at the desk. Then Colbert reached for the covered item. He removed the cloth. Beneath it, a pizza box. Domino's. Closed. Placed on the desk with the specific intentionality of an object that has been waiting for this exact moment since 6:30 p.m. when a production assistant had driven 3 miles in Hollywood traffic to acquire it. Colbert looked at it. He looked at the camera. He looked at the timeline. He looked at the pizza box. He looked at the camera again. "He's like Domino's," he said. 30 minutes are free. A pause of absolute exact duration. "Except it's been 30 days. Another pause. "And the pizza is a civilization." The studio's first sound was laughter. Clean, complete. The specific laughter of a room that has been given the exact right frame at the exact right moment. The frame that makes something that has been confusing for 30 days suddenly, permanently, unmistakably clear. Colbert waited for it to settle. Then he opened the pizza box. Inside, not pizza. A printed copy of Trump's April 7th ceasefire statement, folded in thirds. He removed it. He unfolded it. He read the closing line aloud. "A civilization will tonight to be brought back again." He looked at the camera. "The pizza arrived," he said. "It was just 30 days late, partially eaten, and Iran ate most of it." The studio's second sound was larger than the first. It peaked and held for 7 seconds. Colbert put the ceasefire statement down beside the pizza box. He put the pizza box on the floor. He looked at the camera with the expression of a man who has delivered the thing he came to deliver and is now doing something else. "Here's the part that isn't funny," he said, and his voice came down to the register the studio had learned to recognize. The register below the comedy register, the one that carries weight rather than timing. He reached for the timeline again. He turned it over. On the back, a second document, already printed, which he had placed there before the segment began. A compiled record of the actual military and civilian costs of the 30-day period between the first deadline and the ceasefire. Not the financial cost from the earlier document, but the human cost, the civilian infrastructure damage documented by UN monitoring teams, the displacement figures from UNHCR's field reports, the casualty documentation from 3 independent human rights organizations. He read 4 figures. He placed the document on the desk. The pizza box was on the floor. The timeline was on the desk. The 2 documents were side by side. 30 days, he said, between the first deadline and the ceasefire. He looked at the camera. That's what the extensions cost. The studio held the specific total quiet of a room that has moved in 40 seconds from one emotional space to another and has not yet found the language for where it has arrived. A door near the production wing opened. A man, former senior humanitarian coordinator at UNHCR, who had worked in the field teams documenting displacement during the period covered by the cost timeline. His testimony was numerical and specific. He named the displacement figures, the dates they had been recorded, and the specific period, the gap between each deadline and its extension, during which the figures had been compiled. He was not there to editorialize. He was there because the numbers were his numbers, compiled by his teams, and because sitting at home while they were referenced without attribution was, as he put it, a form of disappearing them. Trump's Truth Social account posted its 3rd response of the evening during his testimony, a reference to UNHCR as a globalist propaganda operation. He looked at the camera with the stillness of someone who has been absorbing this description of his organization's fieldwork for a long time. "They didn't buy my silence," he said. "They rented it, and the lease just expired." The second witness came through the same door 80 seconds later, a woman who had served as a senior policy analyst at a defense economics research institution whose cost analysis appeared in the second document on the desk. She had written the specific section on operational tempo costs, the daily cost of maintaining the military posture between deadlines rather than concluding or withdrawing the operation. She had signed a confidentiality agreement covering her institution's proprietary methodology. She said so clearly. Then she said she was speaking about the publicly available figures, not the proprietary ones, and the publicly available figures were sufficient for the purpose. Her voice held before the first sentence, the jaw settling, the hands in her lap with the grip of someone completing a distance. She described the cost geometry, the daily operational cost of maintaining the posture multiplied by the number of days between deadline 1 and ceasefire. She named the figure. It was a large figure. She named it once. She did not name it again. When Trump's press secretary issued a statement calling her institution a left-wing think tank masquerading as a research organization, she absorbed the characterization without visible response. "Fear doesn't age well," she said, looking at the documents rather than the camera. "It turns into something heavier, and I'm done carrying it." The studio's final response was the slow, convergent wave, hands coming together from multiple sections simultaneously, not in celebration of the comedy, which had already done its work, but in response to the thing the comedy had uncovered. Colbert looked at the camera. "This started with your words," he said, looking at the camera the way he looks at the camera when he is talking to one specific person who is not in the studio. "It ends with your silence." He looked at the 2 documents on the desk, the timeline and the cost record, side by side. "And your silence," he said, "is the loudest thing in this room." Trump's 4th Truth Social post arrived at 2:17 a.m. Failed comedian, nobody watches, should be canceled immediately. The Late Show's social team placed it beside the clip's view counter, which had crossed 28 million by that point. No commentary. By morning, the pizza comparison had traveled further than any other frame the show had applied to the Iran conflict, because the right frame does not require explanation. It requires only the moment of contact between the image and the thing it describes, and then it travels on its own, carrying everything behind it, the pizza box and the ceasefire statement and the human cost figure and the 4 deadlines and their extensions, all of it, inside 4 words, 30 minutes or free. If this changed how you see power, hit subscribe. If it didn't, watch it again. The details you missed the first time are the ones that matter most. Notifications on, next one drops soon.